You're listening to Build Your Happier Marriage podcast, formerly known as Happier Marriage Secrets podcast. We recently made the change and is working on updating the website. Our goal is to help you experience a happier marriage so you can fulfill the God-given vision for your life and your family. And today, we're going to talk about how to reduce feelings of resentment and stop being the only one who remembers everything in your marriage. This episode will focus on reframing the feelings of having to be the one doing the reminders, making all the plans, and initiating activities, which has led to a build-up of resentment and tension within the marriage. You find yourself being easily irritated and bothered by even the small things. And we're going to be tackling this and other issues as it relates to this topic. So stay tuned.
Hello and welcome to the Happier Marriage Podcast, a podcast for spouses longing to have a happier marriage so they can feel more connected, desired, and supported. Now, to start the show, here is your host and Sherpa, licensed marriage and family therapist and certified relationship coach, Kingsley Grant.
Now, I want to acknowledge right up front how frustrating it can be to feel like you're constantly reminding your husband about planned events, whether it's to do with plans you have together or plans that involve the kids or other important activities. You are feeling tired and you wish that you didn't have to always be the one. You wish your husband would take the lead at times, right? You are more than willing to have him do that rather than having to feel the pressure or the burden of being the one who seems to be constantly being asked, whether directly or indirectly, to be initiating, planning, and so on. And what tends to happen is you're getting weary of hearing, "I'll do better next time." And also the apologies that come along with that. At first, you didn't mind the apologies because you thought it was very appropriate and understood, but it's kind of getting old for you. Am I correct? Right? So I want to let you know, as a husband and one who have had to navigate this very tricky dynamic, I want you to know, dear wife, that your feelings are what they are. And you are not a bad wife for feeling that way. It's very understandable. However, there are some things that I will share in this episode that I'm praying will help and possibly bring a new perspective to what's happening. And we'll do that right after this.
So, the big question is this. How is it possible that you have a happier marriage when you feel like you've tried everything? Your spouse isn't making an effort. You're exhausted. You feel like giving up. Or there's so much hurt that's taken place between you and your spouse. That is the question, and this podcast will give you the answers.
Now, the question that tends to come up is, why do I have to remind my husband about everything? And maybe you've heard that in some context that seem to suggest it's your job or your responsibility, and you're kind of like tired of hearing that, or you don't want to hear that anymore. And so it's understandable to know how you often feel like you're the one that is keeping track of birthdays, appointments, other calendar activities, and other important events. It's as if you're that walking calendar. Now, I know you don't mind in some respect, but after this long period of time and trying to get your husband to understand where you're coming from, and maybe even feeling unappreciated, not being acknowledged, or there's not much gratitude, or even in a sense of like, this is something that is taking you away from other things, or it's also kind of getting in the way of what you might want to do for yourself. So it could lead to feelings, as I mentioned earlier, of resentment. And in a sense, you feel like, why even bother having a spouse if you have to carry this load? Now, I know you may not go as far as that, but it can feel that way sometimes. So I want to mention that your husband, because I am one myself, and I find myself possibly in the shoe of your husband, or even been there, kind of done that. And what I do know is that your husband, if he's anything like me, often appreciate the reminders. I cannot tell you how much that means to me when my wife reminds me of certain things. And I tend to receive that in a manner. It hasn't always been this way. Let me hastily say that, because in the early stages, I felt like sometimes it's kind of a nag, or it's like adding pressure and additional stress, and I just didn't want to deal with that. But over time, I realized how important that was for me. It truly, truly lifted the weight and the burden and the pressure from off me, that I could be free to not have to use up energy in that aspect. I could put it where I think it's better for us as a family. So I do know that your husband, again, if he's anything like me at this point, appreciate the reminders. But he might not realize the emotional toll it's taking on you. He doesn't realize that this is not that you mind it so much. It's just that it's one more thing. And maybe you're trying to communicate to him that if we feel like a partner, if you felt like he was really kind of a team player in this, then you probably would have a different take on it. Am I correct? Now, I love this verse in Hebrews chapter 10, verse 24, because I think this has to do with where you are right now, where the Bible says, let us consider how we may spur one another on toward love and good deeds. Notice that. Now, I know it's not just for you, it's also for your husband as well. However, because I'm speaking to you and trying to help you to understand sometimes what might be going on in your husband's mind and where he's at, I think it's important to realize that one of the things you're doing is actually fulfilling this verse, where the scripture says we should consider, how is it that what I'm doing is spurring your husband toward love and good deeds? Meaning that maybe over time, as he begin to see how essential this is and how important this is to you, he may want to make some adjustment. You say, Kingsley, it's been a while. You don't understand it. This has been going on for quite some time, and it's really getting old. And you know, I'm here not to debate that, but to simply say, could you consider that what you're doing fits what God may have called you to do as a wife? And maybe this is the role that truly creates that dynamic relationship powerhouse that you're creating, and you're playing a very, very important role. A very important role. Sometimes if we could see down the road what is the result of the works we're doing, the deeds we're putting in, the actions we're making, sometimes if we could only see what's ahead. Because I have seen people who look back and they'll say, yes, it was rough. Yes, it was challenging. Yes, I felt resentment and I got upset and felt irritated and all of those things. But now I'm so thankful I hung in there. I'm so thankful that I kind of played that role for my husband, because where we are today is a result of that. And maybe your husband is in a position now where he is truly rewarding the system, meaning the family, as a result of your sacrifice and your investment of time and energy and taking that load off his shoulder. So one of those things that is important is, how do you communicate to him not only your need, but what this might mean for him? And I want to say, dear husband, that you're not getting off the hook, because it's important that you also take the time to communicate to your wife. She needs to hear from you how important this is, number one, but also, most importantly, your appreciation, your gratitude towards what she is doing. Have you ever stopped at any point, and whether directly or indirectly or through a gift or through just words, communicate how much you appreciate what she does? You know, one of the things I am so grateful for the role my wife has played in my journey so far is that she doesn't mind doing the research on our vacation times, whether it's a cruise or a getaway of any kind. She doesn't mind that. As a matter of fact, it seemed like that is something she enjoys doing. Now, I know not every wife enjoys that kind of thing, because others have different focus and different things that brings them excitement or pleasure. And this may not be your thing, but I'm just speaking about what it's like for me to have that. So I don't have to, I cannot tell you when last. I'm not saying this in a manner to somehow trying to make a point for your husband, but I want to say this, that not having to worry about planning those things, and that's not my strength. I'm telling you, it's really not my strength. And I recognize that. But what I do is, when my wife plans these things, I more often than not is try to communicate to her my appreciation. Because many times I would not experience the things I have done, whether it's the places we have gone to eat or the trips we've been on, if she had not planned it. Now, could I have done that? Yes. But what it's going to take for me to do that, it takes away from what it is I can be putting my time and energy in to get us as a family to the place that I think we need to go. And she also is on board for that. I love the power of teamwork. That's how I see it, teamwork. Because even the Bible in Ecclesiastes 4, verses 9 and 10, it puts it this way: two are better than one, because they have a good reward for their toil. For if they fall, one will lift up his fellow. But woe to him who is alone when he falls, and no one to lift him up. Now, even though it's in the masculine here, it could be applicable to the feminine as well, meaning that it could be the wife who is lifting up the husband, or the husband who is lifting up the wife. The point is the two are better than one. When you're both working in synchronicity, right? You're basically making it happen. When you're both in stride, and when the other person is helping the other person to make certain that the team wins and get the goal, get the point, that's what really matters. For me, soccer is my thing. Soccer is the universal sport. Just in case you may not even think that, I want to drive that home. Okay. So I don't care what any other sports you think of, basketball or American football. Nothing beats the universal football, which is now in the West called soccer. But I've played that most of my young life and my adult life, and to a point where I got older, which now I haven't played in many, many years. In my mind, I think I can still do it. I haven't tried recently, but I think I could still do it, but not at the pace or with the stamina and the aggressive way that I've played in the years, which is understandable now, right? Because we all get older, and things don't work the same way. But one of the things I really like about the soccer analogy, and it's something that I know very well, soccer, right? I've known soccer playing different positions. I've played in the offense or the forward. I've played in the midfield, and I've also played in the defense. Depends on what the team needed. Thank God I was able to do that at different teams, because if they had a very strong forward and someone who was really good at scoring goals and, positioning themselves, and, then I need to find myself going for a position that the team might need most. Now, here's what I know. In my last years of playing official soccer, where I played for my college, and I remember the position that the coach had me in was in the defense. So I was the right back in in the defense line, and I was pretty strong. I'm very strong on my right side. Everyone has their stronger side. Some is the left, some is the right. I can shoot. I can kick the ball and hit the ball really hard with both feet very well. But my right side is much stronger than my left side. And so I played on the right side. Now, what happened is my job was to support the midfield and to protect the goal, right, with the goalkeeper, protect the goalkeeper. But my job very rarely was to score the goal. Now, there are times when we are on an offensive strike where maybe I'm being called upon to run a pattern where I can be the one that scored the goal. But that's a rarity. Most times it's a midfield and a forwards whose job it is to get themselves in position to score the goal. Now, for a whole year of playing soccer for college and competing at different levels, I played in the back. I didn't score a goal during that year. But here's the thing. When our team scored a goal, we all celebrated. Now, I could complain that, hey, why is it that I've always got to play in the back and not get an opportunity to score a goal? Why is it that every game I'm called to play that position? And so the goalkeeper could also say, why is it that my job is to be in the goal every game? Why am I not being celebrated by scoring a goal? Well, each of us knew our role. We had to play a role. But we all agreed upon that so that we as a team could do well. I find that to be so true in marriage as well. That your husband, he might be the one that is initiating plans for taking care of specific tasks because maybe his job is to score goals, is to be the one that gets a ball in the net, right? And in the defense, so he might be the forward in the team of the marriage. The defense the job is to support the team and prevent the other team from scoring, right? And so think of that possibly maybe you, dear wife, is your job and your role to remind your husband of appointments or taking care of the logistics of the home and being the CEO of the home, planning things so that the team can win. That may be the defensive position where you're protecting the household, you're protecting the state of the family while he is out there trying to score the goal. Now, that may be his job for a very long time, and it could be yours. I'm speaking mainly as the husband being the one, but your job is to defend and to create opportunities for scoring the goal. Because even though I was a defender, my job was also to create opportunities and pass the ball in such a way where I can have my fielder, or my striker, the person in the front, be in position to pass the ball to them. If I saw we're hitting the ball really hard and lobbing the ball over into the front where they can get the goal, then I've just been a supportive person. So again, we need to understand that both roles are essential to the team's success. And I think it's one of those ways to help us realize that it doesn't matter how long we may have to play that role. The question becomes, does it really matter? If the team is succeeding and the team is being in position to win a game, does it really matter? I think that's where we miss it sometimes. We begin to compare and what we're doing, and we're saying, well, you don't do as much as I do. Well, that is not going to help us. So I think what we need to do then is shift our perspective, right? Shift our perspective. And one of those ways is to maybe be reminded that your husband can be seen as a supportive act, helping the team win, achieving goals together in your marriage. So that might be what he is, or vice versa, right? So I want you to understand that the importance of open communication about the roles, because in soccer, we have to be speaking a lot. We have to be talking to make certain that we are helping the other teammates to know who is open, who to pass the ball to, all of that. Yes, we are making our own calls, but sometimes we get the help of other team members who help us as well to make the better pass and execute a more effective run on the goal we're trying to get to score in. So what we might want to do is communicate our expectations, right? And share our feelings if we're feeling overloaded. Because if the defense, we're feeling overwhelmed, because sometimes the offensive team have a very strong forward as well. And if we're being overwhelmed in the back, what happened? The midfielder is going to jump back, it's going to move back and help to support the defense to defend the goals. So it's not just the 4 people in the back. It's also maybe one more may drop back to help so that we can defend the goal. So this comes through communication, right? This comes through communication because we want to be able to celebrate the win together. So the fact is we want to be able to celebrate small wins, big wins as a team. Sometimes we may not have a win on a particular day, but we are putting in the work to have that win at some time. And that's why, again, open communication is so very important about these things you're experiencing. And dear husband, when your wife, take the time to explain to you what's going on and possibly invite you into the process and maybe point out to you what you could do to be helpful. Please, can I strongly say to you, don't somehow ignore that or somehow have to have her constantly remind you of that. Maybe you might want to ask her, is there something that you could do? And dear wife, if he does, please remember, it's a team thing. Don't see it. I cannot tell you, in my almost 2 decades of doing counseling, therapy work with couples, and also relationship coaching, I cannot tell you how many times I've heard from one spouse or the other, why do I have to? Why do I have to keep on reminding him or reminding her? I don't think I need to. I'm thinking, okay, so you're going to then withhold that and not feel like you have to. Who suffers at the end? The whole system hurts. The whole system suffers. So we have to think big picture. It's not, the parts. It's a sum of the parts that makes the whole. And so we need to be considering and thinking big picture, thinking whole, thinking family, thinking the system, thinking the marriage, and not look at just the parts, but more the sum of the parts, your part, his part, and how that comes together. Working together as a team will lead to a happier and more fulfilling marriage. This is how you begin to build happier marriage opportunities. This is how you begin to build your happier marriage, the one that works for you. But I am saying to you, these are some things to consider. How it looks in your home may be different from how it looks in my home, but this is a framework I'm providing that could possibly help you to win together. That's what we're after. And I believe that's what you really want, right? I think you would say amen to that. Now, we've come to the end of another exciting episode, and I'm glad you are here. If you like what you've heard and want to go deeper, I want to invite you to a free resource that I've created called 28 Daily Conversation Starter Guide that you can have simply by asking. It's free. And if you simply go to happiermarriagesecrets.com/start, happiermarriagesecrets.com/start, and request your copy, is yours free for the asking. Eventually, when we have our new website, this will also be redirected, so it will still work. happiermarriagesecrets.com/start. Start. This is an opportunity for you to have, conversations and create communication moments with your spouse, right? That you can actually have topics being given to you to talk about, so you can get in the habit of open communication. So get your free copy today, and I believe it will help you even in what we're talking about in this episode. So now, my friend, until the next time, may the Lord bless you and give you his peace, both now and forever. Amen. God bless. Until next time.